Sometimes a nickname just sticks.
The Maverick. Maverick.
Maverick.
The Maverick.
Everyone knows he's a Maverick.
Here comes the Maverick.
Despite being a lifelong conservative, Arizona Senator John McCain was never afraid to go against the grain.
But he said he never considered himself a maverick. This is not a label he really embraced all the time.
Do you like being the Maverick?
I don't know, but I like standing up for what I believe in.
This is how a war hero and a career politician learned to march to the beat of his own drum, much to the chagrin of his own party.
John McCain had a reputation as a bit of a bad boy, and he wasn't always the best student when he was in the U.S. Naval Academy in Annapolis.
Lori Oseo covered McCain mostly in the 80s.
McCain crashed a few planes, and he graduated 5th from the bottom of his class.
1967 was a very tough year for McCain. Within 1 month of active duty in the Navy, he suffered injuries from a massive fire on board the USS Forrestal in the Gulf of Tonkin. 134 sailors died in the tragedy, and John, only 30 at the time, narrowly averted death himself. Only 3 months later, McCain was shot down over North Vietnam and taken prisoner in Hanoi, where he was held in solitary, tortured, and beaten repeatedly for years. McCain's time as a prisoner of war left him permanently disabled, unable to lift his arms above his head.
McCain returned to the U.S. a war hero, and he decided to get involved in politics. He ran for the U.S. House in 1982 and won. In 1986, he ran for the U.S. Senate and won that seat as well.
But McCain's first term became embroiled in what came to be known as the Keating Five scandal, where he and 4 other lawmakers were accused of improperly intervening in a probe by federal regulators to help Charles Keating, CEO of Lincoln Savings and Loan Association. After a slap on the wrist and a slightly tarnished reputation, McCain bounced back by reaching across the aisle on campaign finance reform. With Democrat Russ Feingold, he successfully sponsored a major overhaul of the campaign finance system, despite the objections of Republican leaders. After serving over 10 years in Congress, McCain decided to run for the top job himself. During the 2000 Republican presidential primaries, McCain took some unorthodox stances, saying some things that Republicans are really never supposed to say, such as,
"I'm deeply concerned about a kind of class warfare that's going on right now. It's unfortunate. There's a growing gap between the haves and have-nots in America. But I'm not sure we need to give 2/3 of that tax cut, of that money, to the wealthiest 10% of America."
McCain's defeat in the primaries didn't stop him from resisting Bush's platform during his presidency.
Senator McCain infuriated many fellow Republicans by opposing President George W. Bush's tax cuts and also by co-sponsoring legislation that would provide a path to citizenship for undocumented immigrants.
He was also alone in his party to speak out against so-called enhanced interrogation techniques after 9/11. McCain's captors in Vietnam coerced a false confession from him, so he believed perhaps more strongly than anyone that torture did not work. By 2008, his reputation of a maverick became a full-fledged brand, something he embraced wholeheartedly for his second presidential bid.
I'm a Maverick. I've been called a Maverick.
He's the original Maverick.
I think I'm going to have to cast my vote for the Maverick.
Now we're called a team of Mavericks.
But it quickly became clear that Sarah Palin was a different kind of maverick, one that probably didn't help his campaign.
One of his biggest regrets, he says in his new book, was choosing Sarah Palin as his running mate over one of his best friends in the Senate, Joe Lieberman.
But there was another way McCain's maverick ways defied his own interests during his failed bid for the White House.
We're scared of an Obama presidency.
He resisted demagoguery and insisted that his supporters respect Barack Obama.
I have to tell you, he is a decent person and a person that you do not have to be scared as President of the United States. Now, look,
Change has come to America. Unfortunately, John McCain couldn't make it. Recently claimed that he had never identified himself as a maverick. And we all know what happens in Arizona when you don't have ID.
McCain was a tough critic of Obama's administration, but along the way, he insisted on open debate and decorum, and he reached across the aisle on issues like immigration reform. Then Trump happened.
That is some group of people, thousands.
Suffice it to say, their intra-party relations left something to be desired.
He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people that weren't captured, okay? I hate to tell you.
Despite this, McCain did insist on supporting Trump as the Republican nominee.
The best thing to do is put it behind us and move forward.
Until this.
Grab him by the
At which point McCain withdrew his support for Donald Trump's presidency.
Ladies and gentlemen, the next president of the United States, Donald Trump.
McCain's resistance to Trump continued right into the presidency.
Senator McCain has stood out by his willingness to oppose President Trump. Other Republicans have been much more willing to march in lockstep with the president.
Then, one fateful summer night on the Senate floor, after just being diagnosed with brain cancer, Senator John McCain made an appearance to cast the deciding vote against the Republican effort to repeal Obamacare.
But it was a stunning vote and a very dramatic night in the Senate chamber.
Except for one senator who came into a room at 3 o'clock in the morning and went like that, we would have had health care too.
While McCain prepared for his passing, jabs from the White House did not relent.
A top White House communications aide mocked Senator John McCain's brain cancer diagnosis.
The White House still refusing to apologize for that crass comment about Senator John McCain.
The ill will between Trump and McCain reached such a pitch that toward the end of his days, McCain let it be known that he would rather Trump not attend his funeral. Let that sink in for a second. A lifelong senator uninviting the sitting president of the United States of the same party to his own funeral. Now, if that is not a maverick, nothing is.